Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining today. My name is Julie, and I'm going to be talking to you all about legislative advocacy. I hope that there's probably some familiar faces that I can't see in the crowd, but I just wanted to first welcome you all, and we'll go over all of the agenda items that we have. But first, just wanted to say thanks so much to CurePSP for all the work they've done in the past few years around legislative advocacy. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about it and to really get us jazzed for what's to come. Um, yeah, the first thing I wanted to do was just to welcome you and thank you for all the advocacy that you may have done for Cure PSP and people living with PSP, CBD/CBS, and MSA. We could not have done any of the accomplishments in the past few years without your advocacy. So I really just wanted to take a minute to thank you for those of you who've been following our advocacy and have taken part in it. It is absolutely crucial to have you as part of it. So I wouldn't be here without the work that our community has done. So really just wanted to first and foremost thank you for those of you who've been engaged before and to welcome those of you who may be new to advocacy. Um, we are going to be talking a little bit about the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act, but I want to spend most of the time talking today about what's next for Cure PSP in 2024 in advocacy, and hopefully have some time to take some questions. So first, we had the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act pass last year, this year, and in the Senate, it was signed into law by President Biden in early July. So this was a huge win for our community. And just as a refresher, for those of you who may not know that much about it, it is a piece of legislation that we worked in coalition with a lot of other advocacy and patient-centered organizations to work together to pass this bill that's focused on Parkinson's disease, but it specifically also names the atypical Parkinsonian diseases, including PSP, CBD, and MSA. So this piece of legislation is focused on creating an advocacy council, an advisory council that will coordinate federal efforts across the federal government to create a national plan to make sure that we, as sort of the community, are involved in making sure that we have all of the coordination within the departments of the federal government, as well as making sure there's a patient voice in that advisory council. So there's a lot of work that went into making sure that that was a big part of who's going to make up that council. And so this group of people will come together, look at sort of the landscape of Parkinson's in the United States, look at the government resources, look at the community resources, and figure out what the gaps are, and report back to the Secretary of Health and Human Services and ultimately Congress about what needs to be done to cure and support those living with these Parkinsonian diseases. So the legislation passed, which is fantastic. And it also, again, is just the first step in ensuring that the government is addressing and focused on curing Parkinsonian diseases. So it really lays that foundation for future pieces of legislation where we will definitely need advocates like you to help us pass. So where we are now with the national plan, which is also, I think, the national project, depending on who you talk to, is that the next step is that it's passed, it's signed into law, and now it's within the Department of Health and Human Services. And this is where the advisory council will be formed. It has not been formed yet. We don't know who's on it. There's usually a nomination process for the participants in the council, but Cure PSP is closely monitoring this process and will update the community as we learn more and as we sort of have more of a sense of the makeup of the council and really sort of how we can be involved and monitor the work of the council as well. So this is a really important step in creating awareness and transparency around what the government and ultimately Congress will do to support Parkinsonian diseases. So looking ahead to 2024, what's next for CurePSP advocacy? So one of the things that we will definitely be doing, like I just said, is monitoring the progression and the process for the national plan and basically that creation of the advocacy council. Sorry, I keep saying advocacy council, advisory council. And essentially as well, we will also be doing a bunch of other things around advocacy. So in addition to monitoring for the national plan and the advisory council, we will also be initiating really the work that the community has set out for us. So you may have taken a survey, I think it was in early June, where we asked some questions of the community. Basically, what are the points that are most important to you for us to focus on of legislative advocacy? And we focused it around the care, consciousness, and cure pillars of CurePSP. And what sort of came back in a little bit of a closer look in the findings of that survey are that under the care pillar, access to affordable medical care was really important to our community, as well as support for family care partners. So under that pillar, those were two things that really stuck out that people really wanted some sort of legislative advocacy to focus on under that pillar. For the consciousness pillar, there was a lot of momentum for the creation of a congressional caucus that specifically focuses on PSP, CBD/CBS, and MSA, and really raising the awareness and the competency of the level of awareness, I guess, within Congress. So that was a big takeaway from the survey as well. And then under the cure pillar, focusing on improved diagnostics and a lot more of a research component around these specific diseases. So we sort of got our marching orders from the community around what are the legislative priorities that you would like to see CurePSP focus on. And so what does that mean moving forward, and how do we use that information for launching our, sort of this new advocacy sort of program and not lose momentum after we've passed the help to pass the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act? Well, there's a whole bunch of new opportunities because we have a new Congress. So that means that there'll be a whole new legislative session that begins in January. That means there'll be a new appropriation cycle, a new budget cycle, and also the opportunity to get involved in new legislative coalitions. So sort of if there's shared priorities with other organizations, how can we work together with them to amplify the concerns of the CurePSP community, as well as work together and share advocacy resources? And also, there's a whole bunch of new congressional members to educate, as well as members that we haven't, who are returning, who may not have had any awareness of PSP from their constituents. So we want to really make sure that we take advantage of this new Congress that's starting. And in light of that, how can we also look at the pillars, the sort of priorities that were pulled out from that survey from the pillars, and use that as well as sort of our guideposts in looking at how we should approach this new Congress and what legislative opportunities are there. So that's one of the biggest things, is that this new Congress is starting, and CurePSP is looking at how we can best support our community in advocating in this new Congress. And so one thing that CurePSP is launching is our advocacy committee. So this is the first step in creating a strong base within CurePSP for advocacy. It's a work in progress. It is not new. I mean, it is not like operational yet. This is something that we're hoping to launch in the new year as a way to really take advantage of the momentum that we've had from the amazing momentum that we've had from this community around mobilizing around the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act. So some of the functions of this committee will be that it will vet bills. So there's thousands of bills that are filed every session. And so part of what this committee will do will sort of see which ones are, sort of fall in line with those priorities that we identified, see which ones we can support, see what level of support the organization should provide, and just sort of be able to really engage the community in taking action on priority pieces of legislation, and also creating resources for the community to be able to meet with their congressional representatives and educate them about these diseases. So that's a lot of, sort of the main pieces and functions of this new committee that has not formed yet, but is in the process. And if you have any questions on it, you can email info@curepsp.org. But we're really excited to sort of launch this again, sort of our first step in solidifying CurePSP's commitment to engaging the community in legislative advocacy. So that's really exciting. And also just want to remind people of sort of the main pillars of advocacy, legislative advocacy, and how CurePSP in the past has engaged in legislative advocacy. And this is a really convoluted graphic, but I want to bring your attention to the bottom text, where basically all of these steps in the legislative process are places where we are going to ask people, when we have priority pieces of legislation, to take action. And there's different actions that we're going to ask you to take, but just how important it is for us to continue to be a voice for our community, and again, sort of the need for persistence. And as you saw, there's a lot of different places. Some of those steps will include sending emails to your member of Congress, attending virtual meetings to educate your member of Congress on our diseases, spreading the word when we need people to take action. If you have friends and family who would be willing to send emails and letters, and to continue to talk about it within the community, so that there's lots of different ways that people can engage in advocacy. So really wanted to just remind people that there will be lots of different places to be an advocate, and we are really looking forward to continuing to build those resources for you. And it's important to share when you do advocate. I just like to bring this slide up again, because your connection to atypical Parkinsonian diseases make you an expert. So even if you haven't advocated before in any way, shape, or form, you are the expert of these diseases and how it relates to you and how it's impacted you, your family, your community. These are all things that are really, really important when we are communicating with elected officials, for them to be able to understand the impact of these diseases. And also, just a question that I like to sort of frame advocacy with, and just as we're going into this new Congress, is what will happen if nothing changes. So if we're advocating for a piece of legislation that would impact our community, if it didn't pass for whatever reason, what is the cost of not passing it? What is our community losing if something doesn't change? And so part of what I'm hoping our advocacy committee will do will be to continue to empower you all to tell your stories, and be able to really focus on what needs to change for our community, and how can we use these tools, because I know that you all are great advocates and have to be. How can we use these tools in a different forum and really express the importance of these issues to our elected officials? So I'm really excited that you're here. I'm excited that you're here for this session. Thank you for listening to me. And I'm really excited to get started. So my email address is, I put it right here on our slide, balasalle@curepsp.org. If you have any questions about getting involved in legislative advocacy, please let me know. And I'm really happy. I think we have time for questions. I think that would be great if there are any.
Yes. Hi, Julie. It's Courtney.
Hey.
I'm
Hi, Courtney.
going to be a faceless participant for quick Q&A, but we do have a few questions I'm going to give to you. I think just two.
Awesome.
So the first one is, and you touched on this quite a little bit, but do you have any recommendations on how people can advocate for change from home? So like sending letters, things like that. So just touch a little bit more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, in the past, we've created, I think on the website, we call them toolkits. I'm not sure if that's actually the language we use, but for specific pieces of legislation, we have like pre-written email letters where all you have to do is put in a voting address, and it will automatically populate an already written letter to your elected officials, and it will send it right to them. You can also edit it, which we highly recommend, so that you can tell your story and make it a little bit more personal. Offices are really used to getting sort of those pre-written letters, and they still matter. And if that's all that you can do, that is fantastic. But it also helps, the more personal you can make it, the better. And we're hoping that we'll really have some more opportunities for advocating from home. So whether it's if there's a certain skill that you have that you want to add, some people are really interested in creating spreadsheets or things like that. We are happy to take people who are interested in doing lots of different sort of home-based things that will help us create these resources for people. So I really encourage you, whoever you are, to email me and to let me know what you think you would like to do. And we will find something for you. There is so much work to be done that we just appreciate all of the support and want to work with people so that they can advocate in the way that's best for them.
Great. Okay. And the last question before I let you go is, do you have any words of advice for maintaining hope because sometimes policy change can take so long?
Yes, that is a fantastic question. And my words of advice are basically that nothing changes if nothing changes. And essentially, too, there's a lot of uncertainty right now about what this new Congress is going to look like. And we have a new incoming administration as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty about what all this means, specifically in the legislative advocacy space. And basically, what I like to stay focused on is, as the daughter of someone who lost her life to CBD. I am really focused on, it doesn't matter who's in power, it doesn't matter how long it takes. That my goal is to really make change, and so I'm committed to it, no matter how long it lasts. I mean, not how long it lasts, how long it takes, but also that there is power in numbers. And so even if, this one webinar you've come and you've sat through, and you're like, okay, this might be a cool thing to do. That if you tell two other people, then that's two more people. And this kind of change, to your point, whoever you are, is not something that happens quickly, but it definitely happens less quickly if we don't do anything. So I think there's, a lot of hope in incremental changes, but also as an outlet for empowerment. So even if something takes a really long time, it's too late for my mom, but it's not too late for someone who's going to be, diagnosed, at their next doctor's visit. So I just kind of hold on to that, and regardless of what the political landscape is, sort of have that as my North Star. And so I hope you'll join me in that.
Great. Thanks for joining us today, Julie. Super informative.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
You too.